Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Ginny Yingling, and with me is my co-MC, Tom Clark from Osceola, Wisconsin. We're here for this rally, as you know, to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the federal designation of Lower St. Croix as a wild and scenic river. Before we get on to some of the many speakers that we have here today who wanted to just make some comments about how important the river is to all of us on both sides of the river and talk about how important it is to continue to protect the river, we're going to have a welcome from Kathy Morris, who is the president of the Hudson City Council. Kathy.
Thank you, Ginny. Can everybody hear me? Okay. On behalf of the City of Hudson, I'd like to welcome you. We're pleased that Lakefront Park was chosen as the location for this celebration. I don't think you could have chosen a better spot for it. It's the perfect place for something like this. And it also shows the incredible beauty of the St. Croix River and just how much people utilize it and appreciate it. While you're in Hudson, I'd like to invite you to take a look at our city, our parks, and enjoy our hospitality. I feel I should caution you, at 2:30 this afternoon, LifeLink helicopter is scheduled to land right over here on the Dyke Road as part of the annual Fire and Ambulance Ball. So don't be alarmed, just hold on to your hats. And at 2 o'clock, they're going to start demonstrations for extrication and rescue. So when you're done here, if you got the time, wander over and take in some of the demonstrations. I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over. I know you've got a number of speakers scheduled for this afternoon. I just wanted to give you a warm Hudson welcome and to tell you to enjoy your celebration and enjoy what's turning out to be a very nice day. Thank you.
Make sure that's off. Great.
You have to watch if you don't step on that.
There you
go. It's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
If you want to, yeah. Hello again. My name is Tom Clark. I'm a river lover from Osceola, Wisconsin. I like to think that the St. Croix River is the river that joins two states in our valley. It doesn't divide us, but joins us together, united to protect this beautiful river and its tributaries, its watershed, and its valley. When Bobby Kennedy was senator from New York, U.S. senator from New York, they used to say that Massachusetts had 3 senators. And I like to think that with Bruce Bento in the Congress, the St. Croix Valley has 3 congressmen down in this part of the valley. Congressman Bento is a longtime supporter of parks and wilderness in the U.S. House. He's authored many a bill on Wild and Scenic Rivers Acts, Wild and Scenic River designation, and it's more than fitting that as a great protector of the St. Croix that he be here today, say a few words on this occasion, the 25th anniversary of federal designation. Congressman Bento.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks a lot, Tom. And welcome to all of you, and happy birthday to the St. Croix Wild and Scenic River. What a great day. You notice as we got ready for this, the sun came out, the clouds parted. I mean, you know, we got the real power on our side. Now, they said I only had 3 minutes to sing, you know, so I got to make this quick. Quit applauding. But you know, as I look, you know, it says here, had you came across the river, you had to come across the river. Of course I have to come across the river to see the real beauty of the St. Croix. When I look back west, I can see Minnesota. And I love this cultural resource over here in Hudson, and very pleased that the city council member was here, and so many friends from both sides. You really need to, I think, if anything, epitomizes the task and the challenge and what has been successful for 25 years, led by good land use professionals from the Park Service, led by our good conservation ethic and our state DNRs in both Wisconsin and Minnesota. I think they've done their job. Now it's a question for us to do our job. Because 25 years ago, when Gaylord Nelson and Walter Mondale joined forces with others to set this aside, they meant what they said. And that's why we've got what we've got today. That's why this place is still somewhat preserved. And for people, and for recreation, and for a little bit of the area the way it was left when the Creator touched it. And that's what this is all about, these linear parks, these scraps that we have. Now that isn't enough, of course. There are other powers to be. The mighty and forceful Department of Transportation on both sides of the river are going to pave you to heaven. But we got news for them. We don't want that path. We don't want that bridge. We want our St. Croix Wild and Scenic River as it is. And you've got a lot of friends. You've got a lot of friends. You know, you can build a lot of bridges where we're not fighting about them. Over on the Wakota Bridge or someplace else in Wisconsin. You know, we don't have to sacrifice our wonderful parks and our wonderful areas that we have that really make this the great place, Wisconsin and Minnesota, and this place a very special place. And I've been around the world. And when I tell you, there's no place like sitting in the middle of this river on a summer evening. There's no place else like it in the world, so let's fight for it. Let's get out there and do our job. We can do it if we join forces and communicate with people. Congratulations and happy birthday, and let's have many more with a real good river. Thank you.
Well, now you can see why we put Bruce Vento at the top of our list for speaking. Thanks again, Bruce, for getting the crowd stirred up. Like Bruce said, we have a very valuable treasure here, and there are all kinds of threats to protecting our river for the future. The most important thing about our parks is that we've set them aside for the future. It's a very generous thing that this country has done, and it's an idea that has swept the world. All over the world, countries have copied us by building national park systems based on the example that we set for them. So we should all be very proud as Americans for having set that great idea into motion, and for all the people who have worked so hard to make that a reality. As I mentioned, there are some threats to our river, both from zebra mussels, from the encroachment of urban sprawl, all sorts of development plans. There's information at the tables back under the canopy, along with food, which will probably draw more people in. But take a look at the information, and if you feel like acting on it, there are postcards and things that you can sign to send to your representatives, your elected officials, to let them know how you feel about the river. Let them know how much you care and that you want them to be strong in protecting it. So I encourage you to take a look at that. We'll pay for the postage if you'll sign the cards. Our next speaker is another strong protector of the environment. You guys have known him for a long time. He has worked on many issues throughout Minnesota to make sure that not only we, but our children and our children's children have a clean, safe, and beautiful environment to live in. I want you all to welcome State Attorney Skip Humphrey.
Well, thank you very, very much. Is it? It's this one. I want to say congratulations. 25 years. We take it almost for granted. Folks, we can't take this wonderful treasure of ours for granted. Not in the past, not today, and certainly not with the pressures that are upon us and upon this area tomorrow. It's terribly important that all of us stay involved in this to do the things that Bruce Vento said. He was there when this was developed. Senator Gaylord Nelson was there, Senator Mondale. We've had those people there to help us protect this wonderful treasure, this wonderful watershed here. We need to make sure that we're all there, not only today, but tomorrow, to ensure that this wonderful, wonderful place is maintained. I want to thank the Sierra Club and all of the other members that have joined together to celebrate this 25th anniversary. It's a very, very special time. You know, you talk, Kathy, about the opportunities for stewardship. Stewardship is not just keeping something as it is. The obligation of stewardship is to not only sustain what you have, but to enhance its beauty and its value. And that's the challenge that we face for tomorrow, is to deal with the pressures that are around us, but within those pressures to preserve these wonderful places where there is a quietness, where there is a uniqueness of wilderness, so that all of us can enjoy a better life. That's what it all comes down to. And so I'm really pleased that you're here today. I think we have to protect this marvelous nature and this marvelous preserve from any kind of activity that would diminish or compromise its values. And if there is any change, if at all, we have to take that with great caution, with great caution. So I want you to be there to make sure we're cautious if anything happens. I want you to make sure that your voice is heard. I guarantee you, I will be there to make sure that it's heard loud and clear. This is what we love. This is why we're up here. I don't know about you, but I'm not enamored with mosquitoes. And I don't particularly love blizzards. I don't mind one or two of them, but that's not exactly why I'm here. The reason I live here and my family lives here is this. It's magnificent beauty and the wonderful people that ensure that it stays this way. Let's join together and see that that continues to happen. I want to thank you. I want to thank so many of the people that are working with me. We have a great organization. I want you to know, by the way, if you didn't happen to know, I am running for governor of the state of Minnesota. And I pledge to you that if I'm elected your governor, the first priority always will be, as it has been, the environment. That's where it's going to be and where it's going to stay as far as I'm concerned. But I'm working with wonderful people. I ask you to join with us to develop the kind of policies and directions that we want to see our state go forward with. And I look forward to talking and listening to your concerns. Thank you again for coming out today, and thank you for the energy that you have put in to preserve and that I know you will put in to make sure that it stays exactly the way it is. Thank you very much.
Attorney General Humphrey's father, of course, former Vice President, former Minnesota U.S. Senator Hubert Humphrey, was instrumental in protecting the legislation that protected the St. Croix River, and it's only fitting that his son should be here to offer those words. I want to introduce Chief of Staff for Congressman Bill Luther of Minnesota, Ted Thompson. Congressman Luther is a elected official in the St. Croix Valley, represents the Minnesota side right across from here, a man of vast experience in the Minnesota legislature who's now in his second term in the U.S. Congress, and the St. Croix Valley is well served by having someone of his experience representing us in the U.S. Congress in Washington. He could not be here today. The congressman could not be here today because of scheduling problems, but he felt it was important enough to send his Chief of Staff, Ted Thompson. Ted also is a St. Croix Valley resident, lives over in Bayport, and runs the congressman's office here, both in Washington and in Minnesota. Chief of Staff for Congressman Bill Luther, Ted Thompson.
Well, thanks, Tom and Jenny and everybody who took part in sponsoring the event. I'm glad we got a beautiful day. Woke up this morning and almost called Mayor Schaaf to find out if the weather was going to hold this up. But pleased to see as many people here. Sorry Bill couldn't be here. He had a family commitment that he had made, and during recess he tries to take those as seriously as he can. I also want to thank the National Park Service for the stewardship that and the role they have played in protecting this river. As Tom said, I'm a resident of Bayport. Growing up, we had boats on the river and spent a lot of time fishing and otherwise, and it's a beautiful treasure. Congratulations, obviously, to the St. Croix River for 25 years. Early on, very hard-fought battles in order to bring the river into the system. Recently, I had a chance to talk to former Congressman and former Governor Al Quie from Minnesota about the river, And one of the comments he conveyed to me was that there were a lot of fights 25 years ago, and after the river went into the system, a lot of people said, how could you do this to us? We were going to make a lot of money off the development. And the governor said to me that, well, you know, Ted, if money had meant anything to me, I maybe would have cared, but I was more interested in preserving the river. And I think a lot of people here share that common goal. It took visionary leadership by Democrats, Republicans, independents from both Minnesota and Wisconsin 25 years ago to give us this designation. The battles were fought, the opposition was strong, but here we are celebrating 25 years of the river in the system. We all know that we face several challenges on the St. Croix River, some very close, some a little further north, and then some natural. Commissioner Engstrom can't hear me. Sorry about that. There you go. But we face many challenges with the river system, the entire Wild and Scenic River system. And Congressman Luther very much believes in the precedent that was set 25 years ago with this river and the entire Wild and Scenic River system, and he will not engage in any activity that's going to undermine the protection of the river. Thank you. Any steps that we take as residents out here, as the two states, they have to be in concert with the Wild and Scenic River protection. That's the benchmark that was set, and that's what we all have to abide by. That's what Attorney General Humphrey, Congressman Vento, and so many others share. It's clear that we all have to keep foremost in our mind, no matter what position you have on various issues on the river, but that this is a cherished gift that God gave us that we need to treasure and that we must respect from now until we pass on and our children and grandchildren have the luxury of being able to spend time out here. One thing I do want to say is that I think everybody shares a common goal of preserving and protecting and keeping clean and beautiful this river. It's a true treasure that the two states share. And as we debate the issues, as we focus on the needs of the St. Croix Valley and of the two states, I'd like hopefully to see everybody operating as one, with differences that may be. But we need to bring everybody together to come up with the best solution that protects the river, that keeps the sanctity of the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act in mind. Because we need to keep the St. Croix River a living monument. We need to keep it clean. We need to keep it preserved for the future. And to piggyback on some of what Skip was saying, I think that to expand on stewardship, not only do we need to keep what we have, protect what we have, and try to expand where we can, but I think any steps that we can take to reclaim portions of the river, and I think there are opportunities, but we should reclaim what we can, and we should do it in a spirit of unity on behalf of the river. Again, that's all I'm going to say. The congressman wishes he could have been here. He appreciates all the support and the hundreds of letters and phone calls and everything else regarding issues on the river. And I hope that 25 years from now, in the year 2022, that I'll be back here to celebrate the golden anniversary, and that not only will the river be as beautiful as it is today, but it'll be more beautiful and we'll have more land along the river for the people to enjoy. Thank you.
One of the things that we've learned in protecting public lands is that it's often a multi-generational effort. As we mentioned before, Attorney General Humphrey's father was involved with protecting lands, and now he's doing the same thing. And we have some folks here who will be protecting the river into the future. But before we get to that, I wanted to read a letter from yet another middle generation land protector, and that is Ted Mondale. As was mentioned earlier, Walter Mondale was one of the authors of the 1972 legislation that led to protection of this river. And we've been able to enjoy it ever since. Now that the river is threatened by various pressures from development, State Senator Ted Mondale has worked to try and continue the protections and make sure that the river is there for generations to come. So I'd like to just read this letter. Senator Mondale had other plans today and was unable to change them, but he asked if I would read a letter from him. Dear friends, thank you very much for the invitation to the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the St. Croix River's protection under the Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. I am, however, previously engaged at the Minnesota State Fair this Saturday, and I regret I will not be able to attend. Preservation of the St. Croix River and the surrounding valley is essential to the protection of the natural resources and environment of Minnesota and Wisconsin. As you know, last year in the Minnesota State Senate, I introduced a bill restricting bridges over the rivers in the Wild and Scenic River system. We must fight the urban sprawl which threatens our resources. I applaud the efforts of the Sierra Clubs, Friends of the St. Croix River, and the National Parks and Conservation Association, and the Park Service, and all the citizens who work to preserve the beauty and purity of their environment. Again, thank you for thinking of me. Sincerely, Ted Mondale. Well, rightfully so, one of the organizations that a lot of our thanks go to and that were mentioned in Senator Mondale's letter is the National Park Service. They are the folks who have been there for the last 25 years working so hard to make sure that this resource has been protected as well as it has been. And so one of the things that we wanted to be sure today was to honor the people of the National Park Service who have given so much of their energy and devotion to our river as well as our other public lands. And to do that, we've invited John Dougherty from the National Park Service. He's here standing in for Tony Anderson, the supervisor of the river. And we also have two people from the next generation. Heather Hauer and Emily Casey are here to present a birthday cake to the National Park Service. So won't you welcome all of them? Come on, guys.
Here's the cake. Oh. Okay, well,
We just wanted to say thank you.
okay, thank you. And
Thanks for protecting
Thank you very
the river
much.
for future generations.
let's get a picture. Why don't you take it? I'll say a few words.
Actually, first we're going to sing happy birthday to the river before we let John talk.
Yeah, don't say it to me, the river.
So why don't you join us in singing happy birthday? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy 25th birthday, dear river. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you. You can tell I'm not a singing ranger. Congressman Vento, I think, is a little disappointed, but on behalf of the National Park Service and the American people, I want to thank you for the cake and this ceremony. A little closer? Okay. Thank you very much. I accept this cake on their behalf. I'll take it back to the Visitor Center in Stillwater, and we'll have them cut it up for visitors that come in later today. Hopefully, I guess we'd better eat it today, so I'll take it right after the ceremony. But the creation of Lower St. Croix National Scenic Riverway by Congress really, in my mind, is the finest expression of the ideals and vision of a free people. To protect this river in perpetuity for present and future generations. The 25th offers us a chance to celebrate together. But anniversaries to me are more than celebrations. Anniversaries are benchmarks to measure success. And we have had successes on the river. For example, state and local zoning ordinances have been passed to protect this beautiful landscape. The Park Service has purchased nearly 4,700 acres of land outright and 3,500 acres of scenic easements to protect the viewshed along this valley. Recreational use is managed to provide for the public enjoyment, yet protect valuable resources. But anniversaries are also the time to renew commitments. In this case, the commitment to fill the promise of 1972. People mistakenly believe that when a park or special area is created or set aside, the job is finished. We become complacent sometimes. Complacency attacks the St. Croix River like dry rot the timbers of our homes. The damage to river and home often are not apparent until too late. The 1972 law by itself does not guarantee protection from those with priorities and interests harmful to the river. It is up to us to speak and act on behalf of our beloved St. Croix to promote the 1972 vision, to make that promise of 1972 reality. So thank you.
The dangers of being a short MC. As we've talked so far, there's so many people who are involved in protecting our river and keeping it a beautiful place. It takes so much work and so much effort. Some of it is from the paid staff who are involved with the National Park Service. Some of it is from our elected officials, both in Congress and our state legislatures. And some of it is the volunteer efforts of thousands of people who love the river and care about it and want to save it for the future. One of those people is our next speaker. Clarence Malik is commissioner or chair of the Lower St. Croix Planning Task Force. He's been involved with protecting the river for many, many years, and we want to give him a big thank you for all the work that he has done to make this such a beautiful place to live and play.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. I think I ought to say first that the governors and legislatures of the two states, Wisconsin and Minnesota, in 1965 started the Minnesota-Wisconsin Boundary Area Commission. And that boundary area is larger, of course, than the St. Croix, but it does include the St. Croix. I'm one of the Wisconsin commissioners, and one of the Minnesota commissioners is here, Steve DeLapp, over there in the red shirt in front of Congressman Vento. So the Boundary Area Commission was involved in the efforts in a background role to make this part of the St. Croix part of the Wild and Scenic Rivers designation from that time, and it has continued to do things in furtherance of the kinds of goals that you share, I'm sure. The Boundary Area Commission, though, is bound to a role which is, shall we say, neutral and representative of a wide spectrum of interests. For example, with respect to the Stillwater Bridge, the Boundary Area Commission's position is far more complex than simply this bridge or that bridge. It was because of my role with the Boundary Area Commission that when the effort was underway to establish a new plan for the Lower St. Croix, that's the section from St. Croix Falls to Prescott, the Lower St. Croix of 52 miles, I was asked to sit in on the planning efforts, and that came to a focus in February of 1996. And since that time, we've had some 37 meetings of the Lower St. Croix Planning Task Force, open meetings, most of them held right here in the Phipps Center. And the very next one, I'll put a plug right now, is September 11th at 7 p.m. All of them are open. You're all welcome to attend and help us to develop a plan for the next 20 years. The existing plan was adopted in 1976, and so as you can imagine, it's dated and it's time for a new plan. However, if you can't make the meetings, that's all right. Judy Bellaire's back there, and Tom Clark, who's spoken to you, Bertha Hall out here, Mrs. Clark, all have been regular attendees at task force meetings, and I think that they probably speak your viewpoint as eloquently as anyone could. Again, thank you for coming. Let's look forward to another 20 years of the St. Croix.
Thanks, Buck, and thanks to the staff and the commissioners and citizens that have served on the commission over these last years, Minnesota-Wisconsin Boundary Area Commission. Dave Engstrom is a Washington County, Minnesota County Board member, past chair of the county board, and Dave has been an unfailing and unflinching protector and advocate for our quality of life and protecting the environment in the St. Croix Valley. When he isn't promoting clothing optional bathing down at the new county regional park, St. Croix Bluffs, maybe it's not clothing optional yet, okay. It's just the new county park down here was one of the great events of this past year, the dedication of that brand new River Bluffs Park. Dave was the prime architect for getting Washington County to buy that previously controlled data employee park and add it to become another one of the jewels of the county parks and state parks and federal lands along the St. Croix. We should give Dave a big hand. He has a few words to say.
if you look at me, you know that I'm not the clothing optional sort of person that would use that beach, right? 2 words, and I think about the 7th or 8th speaker here. And 2 things that I think we have to do. One is be thankful. Be thankful that 25 years ago this legislation was passed and it protected this river. The second one is be vigilant. Because every time you turn your back and whatever happens, there's always something happening that's going to threaten this river, and we have to be vigilant in protecting it. No, it doesn't matter if it's at the township level, the city level, the county level, state, or federal. We have to continue to be vigilant and protect this river. I want to close just by echoing something that Tom Clark said earlier, in that please remember that this is a river that joins 2 states, not separates 2 states. Thanks.
We've had a number of gentlemen speak here, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a couple of young ladies that are sitting out in the audience today. I consider them grandmothers of the St. Croix River. They're founders of our local Sierra Club group in the valley here, the St. Croix Valley Interstate Group. I wonder if Catherine Hiding and her young friend Alice Pemble would just raise a hand and acknowledge the crowd, and let's give them a big hand. They're part of the connection that we have to 25 years ago and the generation that preceded us in protecting this valley. Before we get to some music again, I think we have Bill Kruger from the St. Croix County Board. St. Croix County is on this side. We just had Dave Engstrom from the other side. Bill, would you come up and say a few words about your view of the St. Croix Valley here?
Thank you, Tom. I've worn many hats in my life, but the most important hat I've worn is that of a fisherman. And as a fisherman, I get to tell a fishing story. Once upon a time, I was fishing on the river. There was a fishing contest sponsored by the Bluff Bait Shop. I got a big fish on my light line, and I fought him for a long time. Got him in the boat, and he was a gigantic catfish. Well, this presented a quandary to me because I had a policy of releasing any fish over 3 pounds. So I put him in the cooler with ice and water. He was so big that his tail stuck out. I had to cover it with a towel, a wet towel. I roared back to the boat landing, got the boat onto the trailer, raced home, pulled out my gigantic salmon cooler, put it in the trunk of the car, filled it with water, put the catfish in there. My wife was watching me during this time. Mary was saying that catfish is looking at me very suspiciously. Well, anyway, I roared over to Stillwater, the bait shop. The attendant was kind of unsure. He'd never entered a live fish before. But it weighed 28 pounds. I won the contest. Back to the cooler. I drove into downtown Stillwater. A little north of the bridge is that marina. I backed the car down the boat's ramp. And I had this heavy cooler, and a couple of people were walking by, and I says, hey, will you help me put a fish in the water? And they, sure. When they saw the cooler, they were kind of taken back, but we all lugged it down there, put the fish in the water, zoom, away he went. So that's the story. As a fisherman, I got to support the river. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Some of you may know this, but some of you may not. Bill is a supervisor for a county that has been described by the American Farmland Trust as having some of the most endangered farmland in the nation, in part because of the pressure that's being put on this part of the state of Wisconsin from urban sprawl. One of the many things that we're trying to ensure that there's comprehensive planning and good decisions made, and we're glad that we have people like Bill Kruger on the county board as a supervisor to help make those good decisions about protecting the river and the watershed. Well, we understand that the helicopter will be arriving any time now, so we may have a little bit of a break. We'll see how the noise level is. We've been assured that it is not a black helicopter from the UN, so nobody needs to panic. But at this point, we're going to give you a little break from the speechifying and have a beautiful song sung for us by Pete Mayer, who's written a song that he's dedicated to the St. Croix River.
Hi, everybody. It's an honor to be here today with so many good people giving of their time and effort to help protect our river here. I'm a songwriter from Stillwater, and I think it's amazing that we have this river, and it's in such beautiful condition. This bridge is, or excuse me, this song is actually about the bridge, the proposed bridge that's been recently and perhaps temporarily blocked. I would hate to see the bridge go in. I know it's quite a volatile issue with a lot of people, but I think there's so much that's already been built on the river, and so I hope we make good and wise choices with anything that we propose to build near or on the river. So I'd like to sing this song for you. It's called Our Beautiful River St. Croix. These days our river is feeling the strain, so many living close to its banks. So much already that people have changed of our beautiful river St. Croix. We may not know what we've got till it's gone. We build a highway bridge 1 mile long, sending our city out sprawling along our beautiful river St. Croix. So let's stop for a moment, capture this chance to honor this treasure and help make it last, to act out of wisdom so our great-grandchildren enjoy our beautiful river St. Croix. Our cars go wherever we like, so this inconvenience is such a small price to pay for the sake of preserving the life of our beautiful river St. Croix. We rest on her waters and lie by her side, dreamily watch as the heron floats by. For insight and sanity we are obliged to our beautiful river St. Croix. So let's stop for a moment and capture this chance to honor this treasure and help make it last, to act out of wisdom so our great-grandchildren enjoy our beautiful river St. Croix. So let's stop for a moment, capture this chance to honor this treasure, help make it last, to act out of wisdom so our great-grandchildren enjoy our beautiful river St. Croix. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Pete. That was a great tribute to our river. We had one request for an encore. Okay, we've had a decline on the encore. We know that there's supposed to be thunderstorms rolling in, so we're going to move along. We'll keep going as long as we can until the noise of the helicopters come. And it was pointed out to me to remind everybody, one of the great things about this medevac helicopter is it's one of the solutions to some of the problems people have said with getting across the river when there are medical emergencies. So we're grateful that there will be a helicopter demonstration here today to show that that's not such a barrier for protecting our river. Our next speaker is Jennifer Hunt. She's the executive director for the Voyageurs Region National Park Association. Now, if you guys know your geography, Voyageurs National Park is way up in northern Minnesota, and it's one of our embattled national public lands. But Voyageurs Region National Park Association takes care of all of our parks here in Minnesota, and that includes the national park that is the Wild and Scenic River here along the border of Wisconsin and Minnesota. So Jennifer's group has done a great job of trying to educate people about the values of the river and the need to have good stewardship to protect it. And she's going to be here to talk to you about some of the threats that face the river, including a little critter called the zebra mussel. Jennifer.
Hi, welcome. Glad you can make it today. I am not an expert on zebra mussels. I work for a nonprofit organization that is very interested in National Park Service units around the state of Minnesota and the area along the shorelines of the state. The St. Croix River is a very important element in the work that we have done over the years. And we've worked on very many issues regarding pollution and development threats, but very little time has been done or thought about how exotic species might end up affecting the river as well. You've already heard about the effects of a bridge that has been proposed right now for the river. But another more quiet and pesky little exotic species is entering the river and creating havoc. We have a demonstration right here of just one way in which this little mussel is coming up and not only wrecking our major lakes, but also coming up into our river areas. This is, there have been jokes made about how everyone has worried about Russia coming in and invading us and rendering us helpless. Well, this little zebra mussel actually comes from the streams of the past Soviet Union and has made its way over, probably through vessels, into our waterways, and has done so within under the number of years that our Scenic Riverways Act has been in place. It has made its way from the shores of Lake Erie all the way down and up through the Mississippi and into the St. Croix River as of just last year. It's very frightening because it attaches not only onto some of our rare and endangered mussels that we have in the river here, but it also affects water intake valves, people who rely on taking water in from the river. It's going to affect you as boaters. If you have motors here, you don't have to be in the water for long before the mussels can get into your water chambers. It loves to live in bait barrels and things like that. As far as our rare and endangered two mussels that we have in the river, this is particularly disturbing for them because they like to attach, like these mussels are showing, onto the outer shells of the mussels and not let the mussels live. They cannot behave in a natural way and ultimately will die. There are very easy ways to take care of this. One, if you're coming up the Mississippi River, just don't even enter the St. Croix with your boat. If you do want to take your boat into the St. Croix, let it air dry and make sure that it's washed free of water before you bring it into the river. If you can't wait 4 days, flush your boat inside and out with as hot a water as you can get a hold of. These guys can't hold up to very hot water. Otherwise, just store your boat outside in the wintertime. They die from cold exposure as well. They also will only live for about a week if you're carrying them within some kind of water chamber. But they are an exotic species. They are not native to this area, and they're something that, amongst other things, can really threaten a river that we're working hard to protect. So if you are a boater and you are a user of the river, please keep it in mind. There's a table with lots of good information over underneath the tent that I invite you to go to and read more about this. And once again, thanks again for coming. Bye.
For those of you who might be interested in more information about zebra mussels, we have a nice display. You can see boats that are completely encrusted with the little buggers. There's even a shopping cart that had the misfortune of falling into one of the Great Lakes and got completely covered with it. There's some great pictures of that and information about the zebra mussel and what you can do to help to protect the river from it. Next up, speaking for the river, is going to be Matt Hollinshead. Matt works on transportation issues, and transportation obviously is one of the keys for protecting our rivers and our public lands and our open spaces. By having a more efficient public transportation system, we can move people more effectively without having to pave so much of our land. So Matt's here representing not only Minnesotans for Iced Tea, which is an acronym for a big bill that Congress is considering right now that Matt's going to tell you a little bit about, but he's also here representing Rivertown Restoration.
Good afternoon. I've worked with Rivertown Restoration, which is based in Stillwater, as some of you may know, for about a year. And they are concerned with an aspect of the river that is just as integral as the natural part of it, as every other part of the riverway, and that is its cultural heritage. The word history means writing things down. It means the record that is written down. And 25 years ago, the event that took place 25 years ago is that this riverway was written down as something precious and something unusual. And ever since then, it's had that on record as its status. And that needs to be kept, and it needs to be enriched, and it needs to be preserved and protected. And Rivertown Restoration's mission is history, and that's become part of the history of the river. So I just want to say on behalf of Rivertown Restoration that if you're a river town in the St. Croix Valley, the welfare of the river itself is integral to the identity of your town. On the subject of ICE T, which stands for Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Program, I have here a transit map of the metro area, and when I got up this morning, I thought, gee, wouldn't it be nice not to have to bring my car out here, because isn't it cars that's making us build all these bridges and build some of these highways that put sprawl so close to this riverway? Well, I looked on this map, and there's no way you can get out here on a bus. There's no way you can get out here on Saturday, and there's almost no way you can get out here on Monday through Friday or Sunday. ICE-T can help make this possible. It sounds indirect, but believe me, it's not indirect. If we can do that, we can help preserve the riverway. So I just want to ask you to contact your congressman and tell him we need to protect this law, which allows us to take some highway money and put it into public transportation. It allows us to take some highway money and put it into the kinds of amenities that protect the environment, including the environment on both sides of this riverway. It's very important. It expires on September 30th, and it's critical that all of our congressional representatives take the right side on this, consistent with this great riverway to protect this heritage. So I appreciate being able to be here on behalf of Rivertown Restoration and Minnesotans for Iced Tea. We've got to protect this river. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Well, the cops are circling. I guess we should have paid the registration fee for the park today, huh? Our next speaker is Scott Elkins, who works for 1,000 Friends of Minnesota, a group of folks who have gotten together, banded together to try and protect open space and native habitat and to encourage our policymakers and our decision makers to make wise decisions about land use planning so that we can protect these lands far into the future while still providing the things that people need, a place to live, places to work, places to shop, and most importantly for a lot of us, places to play. Scott?
Hello everybody, thanks for coming out this afternoon. We're really fortunate to have such a nice sunny day. Actually, 1,000 Friends of Minnesota is a program of the Land Stewardship Project. We were founded in 1982, focusing on issues of sustainable agriculture and protecting farmland. And the 1,000 Friends of Minnesota program is particularly interested in not letting farmland and natural areas get swallowed up by urban sprawl. Just recently, this past legislative session, Minnesota became the very first state in the upper Midwest to pass statewide growth management legislation called the Community-Based Planning Act for Minnesota. And there's a lot of details of it, but the most important thing is that this act is meant to not only protect farmland in the state and constrain urban sprawl, but to protect our very important and valuable scenic and wild resources. Our national forests, our public lands, and especially the St. Croix River, which is lying right in the path of urban sprawl coming from the Twin Cities. It's very important that we as citizens, both on the Wisconsin and Minnesota side of the river, make it clear in local meetings for our public officials, for our elected officials, that we do not want to see the St. Croix River to be swallowed up by the kind of low-density housing development and strip malls that are rapidly moving out of the Twin Cities. On the Minnesota side, this is obviously really important. The Twin Cities is the third most sprawling metropolitan of the top 25 metropolitan areas in the country. It's more sprawling than Los Angeles. It's more sprawling than Phoenix, Arizona. When I say sprawling, I mean fewer people per square mile. That's because there are very few geographic barriers to growth in the Twin Cities. But the St. Croix, with its very important wild and scenic designation, should be a very important barrier to keep the Twin Cities from sprawling too far out of control, at least on the eastern side. I'd like to introduce Amy Ward. She's with the 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin, the premier growth management organization for the Wisconsin, the other side of the river, and she could say a little bit about that perspective.
Thank you, Scott. I'm glad to be here with 1,000 Friends of Minnesota, representing 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin. I know sometimes it can seem like we're preaching to the saved out here, preaching to each other, but I just want you to know, those of you on the Wisconsin side, that there's almost 1,000 of us in our new chapter, and we're all real concerned about this area, about this beautiful west coast of Wisconsin. And this river, the St. Croix, it joins Minnesota and Wisconsin. It doesn't divide us. And it's time that we realize that and plan for growth in a way that is going to protect this river and protect what is left, the very small portions that are left of the wild and scenic river banks and watershed. Our position is, 1,000 Friends of Wisconsin has taken a position and we have gone public. We are asking for reconsideration of the bridge at Stillwater and the reconsideration of the plan for the four-lane freeway linking the bridge to New Richmond in Wisconsin. We are convinced that if the plans as written are acted upon, they will only result in haphazard growth and irreversible damage, irreversible sprawl to this area. Thank you.
Well, as we've said so many times today, the reason that we protect our lands is not just for ourselves and for the people who are here now, but for the people of the future. And I think it's only fitting that we end with a presentation from two of the people that we want to pass this land on to. Heather Hauer and Emily Casey are here. They're two young women who have helped to put on this rally today. They were invaluable in helping put together the publicity, the posters, and some of the mailings for this event. And they are here to tell you how they feel about the river and to represent the future and the people who will be protecting the river into the next century.
Hi, my name is Heather and I'm 11. Hi, my name is Emily Casey and I'm 13. The reason I'm here today is because in 20 years from now, I'll be living here and I will be the one who has to live with a intoxicated and polluted river. And every day this river gets even more and more polluted. I think people are too far to the past to think about what's happening now. That's why I'm glad this river is protected, and I hope we can keep it that way. The river is very important to us. We swim and boat in it all the time. People take it for granted even though it's protected. They don't care about the future. We're the ones that have to use this river even after everyone pollutes it, because we're the future. The river is very beautiful and full of wonderful wildlife and has supplied food for animals and Native Americans as well.
It's nice to know that we have people like Emily and Heather who are going to be here in the future to protect what we've all worked so hard for. Again, we want to thank everybody who lives here along the river for all the sacrifices they've made, all the hard work they've put into protecting our river for the future. And we want to celebrate. So we're going to have the Burrito Brothers back to play some music. We got a ton of birthday cake for people to howl into. We got sodas and there's cards to sign to let your representatives know how you feel about the river. So feel free to wander over to the tent, get some food, and then come on back for some great music. Thank you again, everybody, for coming today.